Welcome everyone. My name's Ital Torres and I'm with the Tri-County Regional Energy Network. Today we have Psychology of the Electrification Cell Part 2 by Larry Waters, Electrify My Home. Next slide, please. Before we begin, just make sure you're on mute, and if you have a question, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it. And also this training will be recorded, so be on the lookout for that after this. And 3C Run does not allow AI note takers unless you need us to accommodate for a disability. And also, folks who are here for AIA units, you have to participate in this class for at least 80% of it. Next slide, please. And a little bit about 3C Run. We're the Tri-County Regional Energy Network for anyone who is new. It's a collaborative partnership between Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura counties. Our programs were made to reduce energy use in our area and to help our local economy bloom more. 3C Run was funded by ratepayer dollars that we pay into the public goods fund that is managed by the CPUC. Next slide.
Whoops, I moved my clicker. Okay, here we go.
And we currently have 6 programs across 3 different services. The first one being incentives. Our home energy savings program provides incentives to single-family households and multifamily properties. And similarly, our commercial energy savings program also provides incentives to local businesses. For training, we have our building performance training program, which this training is under today. We provide trainings for building industry professionals as well as tradespeople so they can enhance their knowledge and skills around high performance building. And then Energy Code Connect is our other training program that focuses on the energy code. And then for technical assistance, we have our Agriculture Energy Solutions program that is for our farmers, and we help them reduce their energy consumption. And our Energy Assurance Services program is for our critical facilities, and we help them get energy audits. Next slide, please. And this is just a snapshot of how we've done in the past years. Thank you for joining. I know a lot of you made this happen, so you are included in all of this. And with that, I'll hand it over to Larry to get us started today.
All right. Thank you so much, my dear. I appreciate it. Man, we got on this one on the skin of our teeth. Hello, everyone. Larry Waters. Hope you're joining us for part 2. If you didn't get part 1, it can seem a little weird, you know? It's like when you watch the last half of a Rockford Files on the next week and you miss the first week. So, I don't know. I like to date myself once in a while. Anyway, so I always start with our mission statement here at Electrify My Home. We feel like we're pioneers at this. We've been at it for 5 years. People are just kind of finding out about some of this stuff now, which is wild to me. But our mission is to provide the most efficient, cost-effective electrification solutions, practice responsible electrical management, which means we try to keep the houses on what they've got coming in already, and then train and influence others to do the same, which is what you guys are participating in today. So thank you very much for this. So if you were on last week, you might remember we went pretty deep into personality types. So we hope we all got that part because I think I really drove that point home ad nauseum because that's the way we roll around here. Anyway, so this week we're going to talk about connecting the dots. We're going to go over a little bit of a part 1 review, just a couple slides. I promise I won't get caught in the mire on that one. What a comprehensive assessment looks like. We're going to talk to Mr. Jones today and get a little intel into the plan, setting expectations with the customer, and then we're going to wrap it up at the end. It's Thursday. It's going to be 6 o'clock when we're done. Man, I really appreciate everybody joining us at this late hour in the afternoon because it's no time is valuable. We invest our times in things that help benefit and bloom us. And I want to make sure that your time investment, anytime you're watching any of our stuff, believe me, I understand it's an investment in your time, and I want to help you make the most of that time. So, all right. Anyway, 5:30, just saw the thing come up. It's 6 for me because it takes me half an hour to get out of my office every day. Okay. So, all right. So, part one takeaway. You got to believe in this stuff, man. If you're going to sell a heat pump, you don't have one in your house, you got to get one in your house, right? You got to believe in what you're selling. You got to do a really good job so you can live with the high outcomes of what we're able to do out there, right? We need to understand personalities. We've got that whole DISC profile we went to last week. It was Darth Vader, Han Solo, the crazy gold robot, and then the guy in the monkey suit. So do your research and prepare. Know what you're selling, right? Do your research, figure out what you're going to sell, know how it works, and prepare so you can pass that information along to the customer. Start with emotion with the customer and then support it with logic. And then, the intake at your office sets the tone for everything. So if you've got any influence over your office, it's good to have, it's good to have them ask a couple of questions other than, hey, what's your address, right? So I'm going to make my screen a little less distracting here. Okay, here we go. All right. So on to consultating selling skills. Let your customers sell themselves. If we can give our customers enough information through the presentation process and the discovery process, we can close most of those objection doors down the hall and get to the bottom. At the end of the hall is the price door, and that one's easy to deal with if we know we're dealing with that. So let your customers sell themselves, and if you offer something that's better than what your competition is, you're going to get the sale, right? So as long as you can build that value, because cost without um, high cost is money without a anyway. We're not going to go down that road. Okay, so must-have sales process. Let's go into this. The must-have sales process. We're going to talk first about opening. And so what we do here is I do a little bit of recon on all my customers. So I'm out looking at Redfin or Realtor.com, and I'm doing like the hover over Google, and I'm looking all around like, where's that air conditioner in this satellite photo? I'm looking for the electrical panel. I'm trying to get all that done and all that idea of where this customer stuff is. So when I show up to the house, I can walk straight to the electrical panel and they can go, how'd you know it was here? Because I'm genius. But that's not really it. But so the approach and observation. Solar panels used to tell us a lot. They don't tell us that much anymore because anybody can get some solar panels on their roof. Just because they have a high bill doesn't mean they're super environmentally conscious. So it doesn't tell us everything we need to know. But look at these three pictures here. So be observant. I'm observant online before I am ever observant in the house. We do our stuff slightly different, but what are we looking for? We got this electric car here and we got a lot of solar on the roof. We got some nice pavers, really nice home here. Somebody that's willing to invest, $20,000 in a car that'll go 40 miles. These people are probably, they're serious. Up here, we got a lot of solar panels on the roof, but we got a lot of green grass on here. So maybe not as environmental as you might think they are. Maybe they just have high bills, and the right guy knocked on their door right when the PG&E bill came. Up here, it's PG&E. Um, and then the guy down here, this a little bit. This is maybe the early adopter's house. Yeah, they have. I like to give them a little bit of rib, especially with the older Nissans. We bought one at an auction. I don't go too much into that story. We bought one at an auction. I got it for Alex, my operations manager here, and I said, "Dude, I just bought you an electric car." We plugged it in. It would only charge up to 14 miles. Took us a year to get rid of the thing. So anyway, so my brother has an electric truck. That thing will go like 375 miles, towing a trailer. He went all the way to Tahoe from our house. Anyway, so yeah, they've come a long way. So I'm not trying to diss that, but um, so Be observant as you approach. What are we looking at here? Can we help to determine that personality type based on just the way the house looks? And a lot of times we can. Like down here, what do we see on this house? This is obviously a small house with a lot of solar. This just cries early adopter to me, right? We got solar panels tilted up on the back because we needed more. These are probably 75, maybe 125 watt panels. It's got the solar attic fan, got the recovery tank for the gray water or the roof water. This guy's doing it. Plus, look at this guy probably brags about this car. Like, hey, that car out there, it's in perfect condition. It's got 375,000 miles on it, still gets 30 miles a gallon. So, who is that customer going to be? Anyway, so approach and observation is really important if you want to get down to who it is. Okay. We need to do, here's some basic sales stuff. We need to do the 7 key active listening skills. We need to engage in listening and looking at twice the rate that we're talking. That's why God gave us 2 eyes and 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So the 7 active keys to listening is be attentive. Like, look at people when they're talking to you. I always look at people and tilt my head a little bit so they understand that I'm like running some thinking through my brain, and that's just the way I pay attention. And I watch them talk to me so I can hear what they're saying, not just for a response, but so that I can hear what they're saying, what their concerns are. So be attentive to what they're saying. We need to ask our customers open-ended questions. If you've been in the HVAC sales world for a while, it's always, hey, does your family have any allergies and asthma I should be aware of? Are there any rooms in your house that are less comfortable? Is the noise objectionable? That's all the stuff they were teaching us in the 90s. We got to get away from that. We sell differently because the people we're selling to are different now. So we got to ask open-ended questions, find out what they're looking for, where they heard about it, what they heard about it that they liked, that they thought would work at their house. Like, get in there and ask those questions. And then once they've told you the answer to the first question, ask probing questions based on that question so I can get out those things that I'm going to base my proposal on. And later on, I can say, I was listening to you when you said not only the front bedroom up on the top floor gets really warm, but it's your wife's office and she's in there in the afternoon and she's very uncomfortable. And we discovered like sometimes she'll bring her laptop downstairs. Is that something you want to take care of during this? And ask permission for the upsell, right? I'm getting a little ahead of the slides, but say, if it costs a little bit more, would you be willing to spend a little bit more to take care of that problem today? Request clarification. That's that whole thing. So, oh, I understand it's very uncomfortable for her up there. What does she have to do anything to kind of deal with that? Maybe they're putting a portable air conditioner in the window. I don't know, but I want to know that. I want to get clarification and I want to repeat back to them what they said so they know I understand and I'm listening. Still, too many people go out and sell stuff on the back of a business card, or they write something up, or they're in a rush and they spend 20 minutes. All you got to do is tell people what you're going to do, and you're better than half the other people out there. Paraphrase. When people are clarifying to you, paraphrase it back to them in a way that you can understand, that they know you understand. Be attuned to the customer and respect their feelings, right? So we got to get a little bit personal with people sometimes, but we have to respect where they're at. Like, you can joke around with some people, but there's other people you can't joke around with. We need to understand that. And then make sure we summarize back to the customer. So if you do half of these, you're better than 50% of the salespeople out there. If you can train yourself to do all of these, you'll be unstoppable. Okay. So what do we do? What is an opening? So when I'm getting there, I'm going to try to make sure that we're clear on what we're there for, right? So um, I'm going to, what has led to this meeting? Why are we here? And you may do that a bunch of different ways. Sometimes I'll even ask the customer something I know is not why they called, just to see what they say. So you can kind of figure out what the personality type of the customer is that way. Confirm the goal of the call of the meeting. Make sure you let a customer know, like, in order to do this, Mr. Jones, I'm going to have to really look at everything. It's going to take a little while. Do you have enough time today, or do we need to reschedule? Is there anybody else that needs to be involved with this, right? This is going to give you time to build that relationship with the customer through these questions, and most importantly, discover what that disc type is, right? Once we know that disc type, we've got the keys to the kingdom, because we can just approach the sales process through their personality type, deliver it exactly the way they're going to feel comfortable with it, and bam, you're going to close, man. You're going to close. Okay. So, and then you got to do your rapport building steps. Like, if worst case scenario, if you go through this opening and just kind of go through some of this, you're at least going to find out if there's a misalignment early, right? If, they might have thought you were coming to work on something completely different, or they might say, man, I don't have an hour and a half right now. And then you're not going to get cut off in the middle. What you want to make sure that you have by doing this is an attentive customer. If you go to somebody's house and you tell them you need an hour and a half and they say, oh man, I got to pick up my daughter from school in 45 minutes. That's maybe what we need to do. That's going to give me enough time to gather some of the information I need today. And then I can go back and we can set a second call for me to come and present it all to you, because it really takes, if you want to get this done properly, it's going to take us a little bit of time to discover everything and then show you your options, right? So you might discover a misalignment early and not get in that I got to go situation. Okay. So take some time, build some rapport, and gather some clues from the customer, right? What would I know about this customer? Like, she has pink walls and an orange couch. Um, she's obviously not colorblind. So listen your way to success by using your ears at twice the rate you use your mouth. Start with the first impression. I always, when I'm going to a customer's house, we have a dispatch software that if I say it's on the way, sends them a text message. I always follow that up with a second text message and say, my GPS is telling me I'm going to be there at 10:45. And I say 10:45. If the GPS says 10:30, I'm telling them 10:45. I always give myself 15-minute sway on that. And then when they hit me back and say that's okay, bam, I call them. I just want to make sure they know. I just want to let you know GPS is right on target. If I run into any traffic, I'll call you and let you know. Don't worry, right? I want to stay in contact with that customer because they know you're going to care at that point. And you guys, Southern California, you might think it's going to take an hour and it ends up taking 2 hours because some dude's trying to, worried swerve in and out of traffic because he's running from the cops. Always give us some sincere compliment. This is a big one for me. If you go to somebody's house and they have obviously spent some time improving their home, even if they just live in a housing tract, if they've got nice landscaping or they've done some things in their house that aren't part of what a regular house is, you need to notice that stuff. Because when you notice that stuff, it brings the conversation closer. And always some kind of a compliment if you can. I mean, once in a while you go into a house, there's not much to compliment on, but then you just find something you can relate to there. Be observant of that decor. People spend a lot of time on making their houses their homes. If you respect their homes, like I go in all the time, is I love houses, man. I love these old craftsman houses. If I go into one that's got like a bunch of stuff everywhere and it's really not very clean, I'm like looking at the architecture. Like, this is a beautiful home. Look at the construction that went into this. I love these built-ins, whatever it is. I'm going to be observant of it and bring it up because it just helps build that rapport. But also know your personality type and don't go overboard, because if you got the wrong guy that doesn't care, he's gonna, you'll know if that's good. Okay. Look for conversation starters. Every sales class you've ever been to in your life talks about this. We want to be able to spend some time building. They got a fishing boat in the garage and you're into fishing. You should spend 5-10 minutes talking about fishing. But remember, you told the customer you're going to be there an hour and a half. Don't burn 45 minutes talking about fishing and then cut short on your process of moving through. You don't want to stick that guy with a bad system just because you both like fishing. Okay. At this point, we're going to try to pinpoint that personality type. And you can tell a lot by houses. What's the car sitting in the front yard? How nice is the landscaping? What have they done to their house that makes it different than other houses in the tract? You can pinpoint an I-type personality because they're going to have really cool stuff in their house, right? It may not be overboard, but it'll be nice. And Um, so if you spend a little bit of time doing this, it's going to pay you off in spades on the other end. Okay. So meet Mr. Jones. Now, Mr. Jones is going to sit in his house in his chair through this whole thing. And Mr. Jones, you're gonna spend an hour and a half with this guy, and his expression is never going to change. We can pinpoint a personality type this way, but we still got to ask a couple of questions because you might just be having a bad day. So, Mr. Jones, it's a pleasure to meet you. And wow, I love those stone pavers. How Mr. Jones answers this question. This is a good red flag right here. Okay, thanks. We finally got the contractor to come back and address that last row. They weren't quite right, but we're happy with it, how it came out now. That means this customer is going to be very particular on what they're doing, and he's probably very spatially oriented. I would say that this guy's probably more of a C personality. That and kind of the way he dresses. He's not dressing flashy. He's not trying to, he's just Mr. Jones, right? So it sounds like you're interested in a heat pump water heater. Is that correct? A great way to start that alignment conversation. And I'll do this sometimes, just to kind of play with people. You'll figure out real quickly based on somebody's smile and that the way they're talking to you, what type of personality it is. And sometimes you say, "Oh, I came to repair your washer, right?" And they're gonna go, no, and then you'll be able to figure out that these are maybe a C or an I personality. Okay, an S or an I personality. Okay, I thought you were here to look at the furnace. Oh yeah, Mr. Jones, that's right. We're gonna look at the furnace, and you're looking for a heat pump. That's right. It was a heat pump and not a heat pump water heater. Is that right? Okay, now we're gonna get a little alignment going, but we brought Mr. Jones into the conversation. So we want to get Mr. Jones talking. I will tell you the A or what we call the C personality type. That's that conscientious person or the analytical person. These people are going to want to be right on target with details. And so they're not going to let you slide too much. So we're going to have to talk to him and figure out if that's who he is. But I can pretty much tell you by the way Mr. Jones looks, that's how he is. So let's set some expectations. Mr. Jones, this visit should take roughly an hour and a half. The plan is to learn more about what you're looking to do. During that time, I'll conduct a full assessment and then we'll go over the findings and discover the numbers or discuss the numbers at the end. Does that sound good to you? Right now, you're going to get a couple of different answers. If this customer says, "Yeah, that's fine," we got an analytical guy here that doesn't want to talk much, right? He's this guy's not trying to prove anything to anybody. He's just waiting for what you're going to bring him and thinking, is this guy going to be like the paver guy? Some personalities will pull you off course. It's okay to be flexible. So if I get in front of an I type personality because I'm one too, and we start chatting, I will stop the customer and say, I would love to chat with you for as long as we could be here, but I promised you an hour and a half. I do have a little bit of extra time if you want to just if you're okay with a couple hours, I can spend that time with you. But if not, I have to get going on this process. I'm so sorry. Then we want to get into the questioning phase. By now, we should have a pretty good idea of who our customers are. I tell you what, the D type personality, when you ring the doorbell, if the furnace is in the garage, you're going to hear the garage door open. And the guy's going to come out and say, the furnace is right there. That's what you're looking at. Come get me when you figured it out. That's a classic D move. So questioning must have sales process and getting into the questioning. So there's an art to asking good questions. I think anybody that's done any sales for a while can agree with that. There's this thing that we know as salespeople. You can be a unconscious competent, which means you just got sales down and you act through that through your life. But if you're trying to become a salesperson and you're not necessarily a natural and you're becoming a really good salesperson, you might be a conscious incompetent, right? So in other words, you've got to go through the processes one by one and feel this out. Eventually, it's all going to be automatic, and then it's going to be real easy. But for the period of time where you're learning to sell, you need to be really good about staying on track and asking the right questions, because questions are important, right? The ability to ask good questions is the greatest resource in learning the truth. If we can ask questions that don't offend people, that we can pull more detail out of the answer of those questions. Now, some of the questions we're going to ask are not going to lead anywhere, and we just want to go to the next one, right? Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. So this is something about watching people talk to you. And like really when a customer is having a conversation with you, you're listening for what the cues are for what I can ask questions about or what I can drill deeper on. And not just so I can say, "Hey, I know what you need. I'm gonna jump on that and get care of that." No, no, no. We need to slow down. We need to listen to what the customer's saying, and then we need to pull out of them what else they're saying because there's always something below that, right? Okay. So, a couple of the benefits of asking questions strategically. Introducing questions leads to providing more value. And so if you ask the right questions and you get the right answers and you expand on those answers and you get a little bit deeper, the customer is going to know you care. It's a natural human interaction that's happening here. And when you are genuinely interested in someone else, they are going to be open to sharing more. Some of them are. The D's and the A's a little less, but you've already figured them out. But the I's and the C's, if you're asking questions, they're going to give you more information than you're asking for. You ever run into anybody that says, "I think I share too much"? Those are the best customers ever, by the way. Lowers the barrier to being honest and candid because it provides a basis for your question. So once you're asking these questions and the customer is freely answering them and you're digging deeper, they're going to be more candid with you because they feel like they can be honest with you because now you're like the HVAC therapist, kind of like we've broken through a wall here and we've got a really comfortable conversation going with this customer. That's if they're the right type of customer. Some of them we're just going to have to ask questions and get two-word answers. I don't know how it worked out, but my son in college is a two-word answer guy. Allows you to drill down to relevant insights and issues they might not think of on their own. So when you go into a house and you see the big chair and you see the big TV and you look right there and you see a small return air on a furnace closet, I'm always asking, how loud do you have to turn up that TV when that furnace comes on? Right? And it's a different way of asking it than going, "Oh, is the system noise objectionable?" We know if we're experienced what's going to be noisy or not. We want to ask a question that's going to bring them to the pain that they're feeling from the answer we already know about. That's a big one right there, too. Is like, man, that thing is super loud. Do you ever, not want to talk in here? Or do you ever go turn it off just because it's making too much noise? I could just imagine that thing must whistle like a harmonica. So drill down, get those relevant issues. You see, you see air cleaning, freestanding air cleaners in the house. It's a great way to crescendo into not just saying, "Hey, is there anybody in the house that has allergies or asthma?" Is going, "I noticed you have a HEPA air cleaner in the room over here. Are you just doing that to keep the air cleaner? Or is there somebody in the house that has an allergy problem?" And then now I'm asking because I care about the people in the family and not just selling them a filter, right? It's a completely different body language and internal communication. This will allow yourself to be a knowledgeable problem solver and not just the other guy that came through and opened the catalog to page 13 and goes, "Yeah, we got heat pumps. And how many square feet is your house? Oh, this is the one you need." We're now asking questions that are going to drive down on their needs that they don't even realize, because a lot of customers just thinking, "I'm going to get a new box in there because the old one's kind of not working that good anymore, and I'll get a new one and it's going to be just like the old one was." You have to pry it out of them sometimes if they want you to fix the problems that exist. And if you don't do that, there's a little bit of malpractice going there, right? We have the opportunity to improve our customers' lives dramatically, especially when converting from furnaces to heat pumps if we're doing it properly. to really make their lives much better. So why wouldn't we take the opportunity to drill down and see how much better we can even make it more than we know? And we can't do that without knowing what those issues are. So sometimes we got to drill down and get them. Okay. Mr. Jones, what's led you to want to pursue a heat pump at this time? High bills. Okay. I'm going to put that in the back of my mind. Really, you're concerned about high bills. How high are your bills in the summer? Right? I want to go into that. Oh, they're $600 a month. Man, Mr. Jones, what does that do into your budget? Like, what could you do if you brought that money back into your budget? Right? Man, how many months would you have to go before you could afford to go on a nice vacation if I lowered those bills? Whatever that was. We have solar and we heard heat pumps can save more money. This is a point where you say, the right heat pump in your home can save a lot, but the wrong one installed by the wrong people can actually drive your costs up. So we want to be really careful designing this system for you. This is a great opportunity. And also, we know this guy is conscientious about his funds, right? So we're going to have to ask permission to sell him a better system. But what would you ask next? I gave you a couple of examples there. What would you ask next? What did you hear or who did you hear from that said heat pumps could save you money? Do you know what kind of system they got? Tell me a little bit about their house. How do you think that's going to work in your house? How are you going to use the system? Before I tell you that this is going to save you money, can you tell me a little bit more about how you use your current system? All going to pull more facts out, right? All pull more facts out. Here's some other answers. Some friends just installed a heat pump and they're very happy with the results. Really? So what is it about the results at their house that they were happy with that made you want to get one for your house? And then they're going to say, "Oh man, they said it saved money and it's really quiet." Great. Is really quiet that important to you? Right? This system looks to me like it would make a lot of noise. Is that one of the things you're looking for? Our grandchildren spend a lot of time with us and we want to make sure the indoor air quality is okay. Oh, that's funny because I noticed that air cleaner in the other room. So the grandkids come and spend a lot of time. Do they have allergy or any kind of allergic problem, or you just want to keep the air nice and clean for their little pink lungs? Right? Get down in there, ask those questions. We've been considering going electric for a while, and now the timing seems right. Really, what have you heard about the timing right now that makes it seem right for you? Right? Ask that final question. What would you ask next, right? And then he says, "Oh, I've heard there's some great incentives." How important are incentives to you for getting this? It seems like it might be a pretty big thing for you, right? Some of the systems that we sell have incentives and other ones don't. Generally, the systems I sell that have incentives available on them are a little bit more expensive. And earlier you mentioned that your bills were kind of high. Is it okay if you spend a little bit more to get some back? Right? Are we going to get that conversation going? So here's some questions that will help determine the personality type if you're still not 100% sure at this point. Mr. Jones, are you a person who prefers more information and data, or do you make decisions based on professionals you trust? Now, I ask this question all the time during my things, and I can kind of feel where we're at. And the I's and the S personalities are going to say, I want to trust someone, and I want them to make a suggestion. The A personalities or the engineer types, they're going to be the ones that are going to go, I always do a lot of research before pulling the trigger. I'm going to need as much information. I'm looking at SEER ratings and these sort of things if you can get that much information out of them. And then it's a good time to talk about, that most heat pumps are installed grossly oversized. So the SEER rating doesn't matter if the system doesn't fit your house. So if we design a system that fits your house, it's naturally going to save more energy no matter what the SEER rating, because it's going to run longer and keep the house more comfortable instead of turning on and off all the time, which waste a ton of energy. So there you go. If it's that A or C type personality, they're going to respond to that. They're going to go, huh, it turns on and off a lot because the last guy didn't tell me anything about sizing. Right? So it's a good way to get in. This type of personality, the A and the C type personality, they are going to eat load calcs up. They're going to listen to you a little bit about SEER and EER, and that's a great big number if you're the first guy in the house. But if the second guy comes in and talks about load calcs and inverter systems and the fact that the unit doesn't have to turn on and off all the time, they're gonna dismiss you from the pile. So comfort versus savings. This is a great question as well. If you had to choose, would you rather have lower utility bills or a more comfortable home? So this is actually backwards. Um, so if you had to choose, would you rather have a more comfortable home or spend more overtime on your costs? Sorry, this one's a little bit backwards. But the so we don't want to make the customer think that a more comfortable home is going to lead to higher utility bills. So I should have looked at that one earlier. Um, because if we're going to put in a better system, it's likely to give them lower utility bills and a more comfortable home. But so this guy, lower bills. I might ask on this one, are you looking for, would you rather have a lower initial investment or a more comfortable home? Might be a better way to phrase that. For me, it's lower bills, but really it's my wife. She's pushing me to get this done because she says it gets too cold. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, Mr. Jones? Your wife thinks it gets too cold. What do you keep the system set at in the wintertime? Oh, we turn the furnace on in the morning and kind of take the chill off, and I make her wear a sweater all day. That's a different story than we keep the thing at 72 and it turns on and off all the time and it gets really hot and it gets really cold between cycles. Those are things I'm going to talk about. Well, my heat pump's not going to do that because what happened? There you go. Look at man. So think it and it be done around here at Electrify My Home. So if you had to choose, would you rather have lower upfront cost or a more comfortable home? So this is a good one to ask because um, we can find out where people are right now. And even if somebody says, I want lower cost, but now he's telling me his wife gets too cold, my solution is going to be the more expensive, more comfortable thing. And I'm going to give me the opportunity to talk to him about how a more comfortable home is going to make his wife feel better and not be cold because it's going to maintain and manage the temperature in the house very accurately. And Mr. Jones, the temperature you like on your furnace might be a little bit different than the heat pump temperature because furnaces come on and heat with really hot air. And a lot of times that really hot air goes right to the ceiling if the room is cool. And so it kind of makes your feet feel cool and your forehead feel warm. We don't do that with properly sized and installed heat pumps. I want the room to be the same at the ceiling as it is at the floor, as it is in all four corners. So I can do that with a heat pump. So all your wife has to do is figure out her new comfort temperature, and I can guarantee my system, the way we install it and the way we design it, is going to keep her more comfortable than ever. And Mr. Jones, you're gonna earn some great husband points on this one. I just want to say. Technology for Mr. Jones. How important is it for you to have the latest technology in your home, Mr. Jones? I'm mostly interested in making sure it actually works and it has good efficiency ratings. So that is so great to hear because efficiency ratings are very important and having a system that works well is also, but any system you put in will likely work for a while and might have a good efficiency rating, but if it's put in incorrectly or it's not designed appropriately for a heat pump in your home, it may not work for as long as a properly installed system. And I get you for a guy that wants to not do this again for a while. So the CEES sound questions, right? Comfort, energy, environment, and sound. Here, this is the way we go about this. I don't ask the kind of the pat questions you were taught 20 years ago. This is a different time, right? So, um, Mr. Jones, what are you looking to get out of your new system? I don't know. I just want one that's going to come on and save me a couple of bucks. Okay, very good. So, Is there any of those rooms in the house that we need to deal with? You mentioned your wife's office gets a little hot in the summer. Is that something you would like to take care of during this project? Because we would like to take care of it for you, but it might ease up the price a tiny bit. Are you okay with that? Mr. Jones, how did you and your wife use your thermostat? He said, well, we don't like burning gas, and so we just run it to take the chill off in the morning, and we turn it on about an hour before we go to bed to warm the house up again. So are you sacrificing the comfort in your home for fuel cost or because of the exhaust that's coming out of the system? Well, I don't like the high bills. I mentioned that, so we don't want to run it for that. So if I put a system in for you that was going to keep your bills at where they are or a little bit less, but I was able to offer you really good comfort and make your wife super happy, would that be something we could talk about? That's it right there. We've had customers say that, and like I only run it for an hour because gas costs so much. I'm going to be perfectly honest with them. Like I'm going to give you the permission to be comfortable when you use my system, but it is going to run longer. And it is going to have air conditioning on it that you don't currently have on your system. So if you use the air conditioning, this might cost a tiny bit more during the year to operate, but I'm going to give you improved comfort, which is going to make you okay, or going to make your wife very happy. So is that something you would be interested in? Mr. Jones, do you live a really quiet lifestyle, or how quiet is your lifestyle? I notice there's no little rugrats running around, and they say, "Oh, it's really quiet until the grandkids come over." And I say, "Yeah, ain't it great, right?" But if you live in a quiet lifestyle, so we need to pay particular attention to give you a super quiet system so it doesn't bother you when it comes on. Is that something that you would want us to take care of? To do that and make this system super quiet, it might cost a little bit extra for us to do some modifications. Is that okay? I'm always going to try to ask permission for my customers before I add things in. And I'm going to have them build that value in their mind when they're talking to me. Like they're going, okay, if I want to fix that, it's going to be a couple bucks more, right? And then, more than a couple. How important is reducing your home's carbon footprint? Right here. If you can get the customer to answer this one, you can figure out instantly CA personality, right? It's in one of those two. D personalities and I personalities care less about this. And I don't want to say they don't care about it, but they're going to it's not going to be as big a thing. Most D and I personalities are not going to sacrifice being comfortable. They might get a new system because it might be good for the environment, but when you load that in with we don't run it because we're saving money or we don't want to pollute the atmosphere, these two things are really powerful to bring you to those two personality types. And C's and A's are really easy, or C's and S's are really easy to figure the difference. Because one's going to be spreadsheet, one's going to be relationships, right? Okay. If taking care of these is important to you, there might be a slight increase in the cost. Are you okay with that? Always ask permission to fix those things that are their problems. Help them emphasize and feel the pain of those things and say, I when it gets down to the closing position, I think it would be a shame for you to go to all this cost and do all this work and not take care of that room up there. I was crawling around in the attic and I really figured out it's probably a duct situation. And when I do the load calc, I'm going to find out exactly how many BTUs that room needs. I don't know if you noticed, but that room has 3 outside walls and it has the same size duct as the unit next to it. So it might just mean that we need to deliver more air into that room. And I think it would be a shame for us to do this project and not take care of that. Right. And most people are going to go, no, we need to take care of that, right? So it'd be, you know, you're going to invest a lot of money here today. It's only slightly more to take care of that problem you've been living with all those years you've been here. You want to go ahead and include that in the project. Understand the customer's journey. You want to ask them, have they done any research? What are they leaning towards? How long have you been thinking about this? If the customer says I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks because I heard somebody talking about it at a cocktail party the other day, Okay, they haven't had time to do a lot of research. They might not buy from you today. But if the customer says, I've been looking at this for a couple of years and I feel like it's the right time because the rebates are here, what you mentioned to me earlier, and I'm just looking for a contractor that I feel comfortable with to do it. This is a real easy spot to get into that position by taking a little extra time and effort on designing this system for Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, what's held you back from doing this so far? Haven't found the right person. Just got the money. Got a couple of other bids, so we've been saving up. There's a whole bunch of answers here, but you're not going to know what that answer is unless you ask the question, right? Mr. Jones, how much research have you done on heat pumps? You mentioned to me that you're going to want to do research on it. Have you done any research up to now, and what have you found? Well, I found that they take air from outside and they move it inside. Well, let me show you actually how this system works. We have a schematic that we share with each customer, how the refrigerant flows through the system, how the pressure builds up in the system, it carries the heat and the how the refrigerant changes through. And that is all just to bring them to, and the refrigerant going outside is cold. In fact, it's below freezing. And when it grabs air from outside, if the air is below a certain temperature, it has a hard time pulling that heat in. But that's what the systems that the other companies sell. We only sell the kind that can adjust themselves to cold nights and hot afternoons. Have you talked to other professionals about the project? I always ask this one. How many other contractors have you been talking to about this, or or am I your first one? And they say, you're the first one. I says, well, good, because I'm going to give you the basis of knowledge you need to figure out what contractor is best, because I want you to be able to go into your quest and be able to answer the questions and find out who's talking to you straight and who's not. Do you or your partner have any reservations about a heat pump? What kind of reservations would I have? Well, just that, some of them don't work that good when it's cold outside. And when you need the heat in the house the most, a lot of them struggle to get it, which means they're going to use more energy. So you got to watch out because they can have similar names and kind of be presented similarly, but you really got to make sure you're getting the right technology so it can offer you good efficient heating even when it's lower than desirable temperature outside. And sometimes, Mr. Jones, I know it gets down below 40 here, and that's really the cutoff temperature for performance on a lot of heat pumps. So we want to put one in that if we have that cold spike and it gets down to 35 degrees one night, it still has capacity to do that. But the way most companies do that is they put one in that's big enough to handle that cold, and then it's way too big for all the other days of the year. So I want to put one in that has a built-in volume control. So it can just speed up the volume when it's cold or hot outside, or when your house needs to warm up or cool down a little bit more. But when your house is already warm and it's just mild outside, it's going to be the perfect size for that too. How does that sound, Mr. Jones? Okay. So enough, Mr. Jones. Hope you got something out of that. But we need to talk to our customers. We need to listen to them, ask questions, probe into the questions, and then dial into our solutions after we've asked a couple of clarifying questions. Best way to do it. Okay. So assess for success. So key steps to assessing the home for electrification. Look at everything, right? Look at everything. Don't be the guy that puts your head up in the attic and say, "Oh, ducts are fine." Don't do that because ducts might have been fine for the furnace, which they probably weren't because they never are. They're going to be less fine for the heat pump. We need to know what we're talking about, and we need to be honest with the customer about it. And a lot of companies don't like to do duct work because I know I'm a contractor. There's no bucks in the ducts. But with heat pump conversions from gas, we need to pay attention to the ductwork. And sometimes you're going to have to do some duct systems, right? So I was actually just looking at this thing one of my competitors put up on Instagram today, and it said ducted heat pumps might be a great solution if your ducts are in good shape. Really, you can't like make the ducts in good shape? Anyway, I digress. So be comprehensive, including crawls and attic spaces. And so I'm gonna be 100% transparent and tell you I don't crawl underneath everybody's house, but I've crawled under hundreds and hundreds of houses in my career. I kind of know how houses built, and I will pull up the hatch especially if it's a downflow system. I'll pull up the hatch and I'll get myself down in there and I'll take as many pictures as I can so I can kind of identify the condition of the ductwork or whatever. And then if I do see something that looks like a problem, I will go under there. But that I don't crawl under the houses as much as I used to. But most people aren't even pulling up the hatch, right? They're just maybe look down the register. Oh, that looks like a tube. So get tons of photos because when you're back and you're designing this project or you're talking to your installers about how it's going to be done, or you're doing a rebate on this system, you're going to need a lot of pictures, right? Make sure you take those special pictures of the data plates and the unit from 10 feet back and all the ones you're going to need for the incentives, but also all the ones you're going to need to show them to convince them that they need to do these other things. Like I would never try to sell a duct system to a customer without having some pictures and going, look, here's the deficiencies and this is why this won't work. Now let me do my load calc on the house and see if the sizes match. You might get away with saving some of them, but really when we're just changing out part of the ductwork, it's really better just to change it all out. Make sure you're looking at everything. Get a site plan. I don't know where the cities by you guys, but the cities up here all want site plans now. So while you're out, run a tape measure over to the property line, take a picture of it. Make sure you're going to know where your unit is. Um, do your gas inventory. Look in the breaker box. And once you've got a feel for how these are, like you know what's hooked up to that breaker box. I don't see a dryer breaker here. That might mean they got a gas dryer. I need to go take a peek at that before I leave and just grab a picture over the top of the dryer just to see if there's a gas line there, right? Panel inspection, take pictures of the panel, take pictures of the panel with the cover off so you can see what's really going on in there because sometimes some of those breaker boxes look like it can have two more breakers on the bottom, but there's no space in the actual bus bar. So you want to know all that before you get out there because once you get out there, it's your problem and not Mr. Jones's problem, right? So panel inspections are super, super critical. Don't take up the last two spaces in a panel with some big giant system without talking to the customer about what he's going to do about the next electrification things he needs to do. Do the mechanical inspection. If you've got the opportunity to fire up the old system, if you're going to keep the ductwork and do a quick static pressure and just see what the static pressure is, look at the system. You got a 4-ton system with 1.2 inches of static. You know, it's probably got 3 tons of ductwork in the house. There's a problem that we need to look a little closer at. Look at the envelope and look at the safety concerns. Make sure the water heater isn't backdrafting. So if you don't know what a water heater backdrafting looks like, you can go to one of our other webinars. We get into that in more detail. But if you find a water heater that's backdrafting, like the exhaust is coming in the house because of some sort of a ventilation or sealing issue inside the house, and you put a new heat pump in and you're doing a rebate and the HERS rater comes out and he finds it drafting, oh man, now that's your problem. And you got to talk to Mr. Jones about, you know, why didn't I tell you you need a new water heater when you're out here? Now I got to fix this thing, right? So envelope and safety inspection is really important. If you see any problems like that, if they want a heat pump water heater and you look at their 40-year-old furnace and the thing's just a rusted piece of Swiss cheese, then you got to tell them, you know what? I would recommend taking care of the heat pump for the house first because your furnace is like really, really in poor condition compared to your water heater. Or maybe we do them both. I've had more luck selling water heaters with heat pumps than selling heat pumps with water heaters. Document everything. Pictures are so important. It's going to make everybody's job at the company easier. So we use this. I don't know anybody out there uses this company cam. We've been using company cam for I don't know about 5, 6 months. Maybe it hasn't been quite that long, but every one of our jobs are documented. We built little checklists in there for the walkthrough. So we put all the information in there and a picture that backs it up, the notes, everything goes right into company cam. So um, yeah, it works really good. Take as many pictures as possible, especially if there's any concerns. Like if they tell you that front room isn't conditioning well, I'm going to take 10 pictures of why I think that's the case, and then I'm going to explain it to them. So, um, not to mention being able to explain it to the customer, but the operations team in the shop when they're going to submit for the incentives, and when you're sending your guys out, and when the warehouse people are pulling the stuff for the job, they've got something to look at and see what's really going on, right? Take pictures of every register in every room to make sure you're putting the right registers back in, and then jot down what size they are so you can order the right registers for the job. Because if you're putting in inverter heat pumps and not changing out the registers, you need to stop, because that's a big part of making those units work properly. So, important for protecting the company by showing original conditions of the home. This is a great one too. So you go up to an attic hatch and it's got a bunch of fingerprints already on that. I'm going to snap a picture of that. I went to a crawl access not that long ago and there was a bunch of mud on the wall in the closet. I took a picture of that because I don't want them blaming me for that. That was obviously, and I brought it to their attention. I said, what was going on here? Is somebody underneath your house? He said, yeah, we had a water leak under there and the plumber went in and we just haven't gotten around to cleaning up the wall yet. I'm saying, like a plumber left that there and didn't try to clean it up. Okay. Important for protecting the company and take lots of notes. More details equal better outcomes. So we had a job happen recently where the customer was like super price oriented. I came up with a couple of decent budget solutions for what this guy was trying to do, but they weren't going to be what I would do if the guy said, I have all the money in the world. Well, my project manager goes out there and looks at it and he goes, well, I think we should do this other duct over here and we should run these lines all different. But he never told the customer, like, we need to charge more for that. It took a whole day longer to do all that stuff. Uh, and I had written the job up specifically because the customer was trying to pinch pennies, and he got all this work done for free because he didn't read the notes. But anyway, that's digression again. Sorry about that. It is Thursday at 5. Okay. So take lots of notes, more details, better outcomes. Create your site plan. So we need to measure the house. We need a lot of information here. So when we do this, it's pretty simple stuff, right? A couple of things. And then the information that's not on here is going to be in company cam. And what you see here, stucco siding. It's got a slab floor. It's got R21 in the attic and the walls aren't insulated. Got the window sizes here in all the various rooms. It says 12-inch center, 8-inch ends, 12-foot center and 8-inch end. In other words, the roof is got a vault in it. It's 12 feet on the middle and it's 8 on both sides. All the windows are double pane. There's one small register in the middle of the piano room. There's a slider window here. Just as much notes as you can do, but also just taking into consideration 2 feet per square. If you do it the same on every single job, it's really easy to decipher when you get back to the office. And if you've got 2 feet per square and you can do 5 squares and it's 10 feet and it's an 11-foot room, you're gonna have to run a line down the middle, because if you don't, the rest of the house isn't gonna match up if you make it 12, if it's actually 11, and the next one you round down. So you got to be careful with that. Okay. So yeah, look at right here. You can see this is a little bit of a vaulted ceiling in this office right here. It's got 10 feet to the top of the ceiling, and the rest of the ceilings are 8 feet. Um, is where the kitchen stove is located. What I don't see, where the new AC is going to be. I don't see on here. He must have done a separate plan with a picture, or it might be here. That might be the electrical. But just write everything down on there so you have it all when you get back, and you can easily plug it into a load calculation software. And if we use two different softwares here, so we use I do WriteSoft because I'm old school. I don't do as many anymore. And then we also use Quick Model because it's so much cooler. Quick Model will actually show a it shows a illustration of where the ducts are going to go and kind of where the branches are and all that stuff, and it figures out all the duct for you. It's an amazing program. So it also doubles as a permit plan for the install team. So the young lady at my office that does the permit plan, she was calling me down there today to look at one that the house is kind of like 2 stories on top of each other, but the family room cantilevers over the back and it's all open. It's kind of like got stilts behind it. And they put the furnace outside behind it, which we have to move it actually under the house. But she's like, where do I show the equipment's going to go on this? Because it really wasn't clear in the drawing. So what we had to do was open company cam and look at some of the side pictures and kind of put all the information together. And we were able to determine where everything is going to go so we can send it off to the city. Now, hopefully they can figure it out and it doesn't come back. So build your gas inventory. These are the main appliances you're going to have, but y'all work up in Santa Barbara. You're going to have gas fire pits, gas fireplaces. You guys are going to have gas barbecues. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. Maybe even I don't know, a flaming fountain. I don't know. But we need to have a gas inventory, especially if somebody wants to get all the way off gas. And we need to have this discussion with them up front and let them know, like, you've got these four gas appliances in your house that are going to convert over to electric. So that's going to present a problem with your electrical panel. So we're going to have to look for a couple of solutions on that. If you just want to do the heat pump now, I can put a good low energy heat pump system in this house and only use one double pole 20 amp breaker for the house, whatever it is. And I'm recommending this system so we don't have to run another circuit over to the air mover. And we're doing that so we can save space for the next electrical upgrade. And then some of these we might have to do some sort of a switching mechanism, like a simple switch or a neo charge or something like that, where we're doing a circuit splitter, or great opportunity for a span panel upgrade, something like that. We try to do whatever we can to avoid them having to get the utility company involved, because that can really cause everything to slow down, right? And just more stuff you got to deal with in the office. Have a little bit of mercy on the people in the office. Okay. So space heater, fuel, gas to electric. It's a central split system. It's a furnace in the attic, AC in the backyard. There's a 50 amp circuit in place. This is great. I know this air conditioner has got a 50 amp circuit on it. I'm going to size a new air conditioner in there. It's going to be a really tight inverter system. So I'm going to get away with a 30 amp breaker. So that shores up 20 amps of available power and to shift around inside the panel. So it gives me a little bit more to work with when I'm doing that load calculation. Make sure they know, like, the attic hatch is 21 by 36. That should be okay, unless I got a 4 or 5 ton air handler that's 21 and a quarter inches wide. Then we're gonna have to do something about that, right? Um, Customer uses AC twice a year, so that's a good thing to know too. Water heater. It's a tankless in the outside side yard. It's 3.5 feet from the house to the fence. There's no room for a tank. What are we going to do? What's our solution going to be? We use a lot of those Sandcos with the 43-gallon tanks that are only 38 inches tall. I'll put a couple of those tanks underneath the house if I need to. Or we can always find a space for those, and those units can sit outside as well. The dryer, it's a standard gas. It's in a detached shed. Man, that's a weird house. No electrical, the washer dryer running on an extension cord to the house. This is an extreme example right here. Um, I'm going to be talking to them a little bit about running things off of extension cords if it's me. But, like, are we going to keep the washer and dryer out there during this project? What you're doing here, Mr. Jones, is not up to code. I'm not sure if you know that. But yeah, running your garage off of an extension cord is not really that good. And he's going, well, there used to be some wires in there, but they shorted out, so now we run it off an extension cord. Well, Mr. Jones, we're gonna have to put some new conduit out there and rewire that garage if you're going to keep that out there, because the inspector is going to find that. And when we're done, everything we touch needs to be up to code. Stove or oven. So this is a really bad one. So we've seen this before, and sometimes what throws us for a loop when we're trying to do that good stewardship of the electrical panel, or the watt diet, or the electrical load management, is the separate cooktop and oven, right? That can throw you for a loop. The other one is, I want an induction range because I've heard everybody loves induction ranges. And by the way, we're shopping for a new electric car and I need a charger for that. That's going to instantly open me up to the conversation right away before I look at anything of a circuit splitter. A lot of my customers have had a solution for that. What we do is, most people charge their car in the middle of the night, and, like, a lot of people aren't baking cookies in the middle of the night. So what I can do is I can use one circuit to power your stove and your car charger, and your car will charge as long as your stove is not working. Does that sound like something that might work out for you? If not, I'm going to be talking to them about a span panel, or potentially bringing more power into the house, but I try to avoid that. I try to avoid that at all costs. It's just, it makes everything so much more complicated. Now, if they need a new panel because it's an old Zinsco or something and they've got a gas meter right underneath it, I'm going to do whatever I can to get their house completely off gas so they can get rid of the meter, so I can make it so much easier to put that new panel back in that same spot. Right? I'll use a couple of simple switches temporarily if I have to to get that process moving so they can disconnect from the gas account, get rid of the gas meter, and I can not have to jump through all those hoops of moving the panel down and doing all that other work. So keep all that in mind. So gas in the gas cooktop is in a slab to the island, and they got a separate built-in oven and a 40 amp circuit. So if this customer, um, depending on when the gas slab was, and most of the islands are probably going to have a 120-volt outlet or something. I'm probably going to I'm probably going to be recommending a battery backup cooktop, right? That plugs into 120 and recharges. And that way I can run it all off of that, and then I'm going to sell on that, and this one you're going to be able to make tea when the power's off, if the power ever goes off around here, because I notice you don't have a whole house battery. So um, just make sure you're looking at all of this stuff, because if you go and you put all this stuff in and you offer them one of these rebates for completely converting everything in the house, and they find out from somebody else, they call the plumber in to find out what it's going to cost to cut their beautiful kitchen floor open to run an electrical circuit, when you could have just offered them a battery powered cooktop. And they find out about that later, they're going to be awful upset that the guy that was doing their electrification didn't know that those things existed. Get to know the electrical panel. So I'm just saying, I think there's an electrician on this call. I got this off your website. I wouldn't have this on your website if I was you. No, I'm just kidding. I always, when I see stuff like this, I try to imagine, why the heck would this be like this? And this one is, dude's remodeling his own house and it's taken him 4 years, and he runs one circuit every couple of weeks, and he's just like, oh, I'll take it through the panel later when I straighten it all up. But yeah, not all panels look like this, so you're good. We want to find out a couple things though. I know, isn't that sweet? We need to know what main panel capacity is. Now, this thing might have a big old breaker in here. I can't really tell from the picture, but it might be big enough. And depending on what size the house is, when I do my load calculation, I might have plenty of power here. But am I going to want to stab things into this? I don't think so. I'm not going to come and do an electrification project on a house that has a panel like this, for sure. But there's old panels that are just as unsafe as this one are, that still look nice. I mean they look like they're not like that. I want to know what the used capacity is. I'm going to ask the customer, do you have a spa or a pool in your house? Are you the lucky one in your neighborhood to have a swimming pool? Do you have any idea what that sub panel running the swimming pool, what size breaker that's feeding off of? Right? Sometimes there's enough power back there because it's only running one pump and a controller, and if they ran a 50 amp wire to it, I can put a 30 amp wire in here, run a couple pumps on the other end, and again gain some power inside the panel. Go to a house that's got a EV charger, and everybody, when they get EV chargers, they want to ramp those chargers up all the way, like they're on 50 amp breakers with number 6 wire or whatever. And I'm like, do you drive 30,000 miles a year? Because we can adjust this thing down to 30 amps and put a 30 amp breaker in here. You're gonna have a nice big fat wire, but we'll have a 30 amp breaker, and I'll adjust your car charger down to 30 amps, and that's gonna get us some power to do some of these other projects. Would that be okay with you? Do you really need to charge your car in 2 hours if it's happening in the middle of the night? Physically available space, like this one's got some physically available space that I would never touch. Path for the new wire is really important. Like, I'm putting that heat pump water heater in. It's going in a closet in the back. I'm gonna pick out the right water heater for it, but I got to figure out how to get that wire in there as I'm selling that thing, right? Or at least have a pretty good idea of how it's going to happen. So that my path for the new wire has to be figured in, because I got to price out for that. If it's further than the minimum amount of wiring we have, or the maximum amount of wiring we have that's built into our quote, I have to charge them for that extra wire. I can't just be doing stuff for free. Safety concerns. Wow, this one would be all over that. And then opportunities for retrofits to avoid the panel change. So a lot of times we have these where there's a main panel, it doesn't have much room. I got a span panel sitting right next to it, and I'm just using that main panel as the main breaker to feed that span panel, and I moved all the circuits over into that span so they can control everything. So it's really important that we know what's going on with the panel, make sure it's safe, and what we have to work with. Okay, Safety stuff. It's not just old panels that burn up, but we got to look at the electrical. We got to look at the water heater, make sure it's not backdrafting. If you see this, you got to figure out why it's doing that. If you see this up here, you got to recommend to the customer, this is a good opportunity for you to pull this insulation out and seal your attic space, but also seal the rodents out. And I think we need to disinfect up there a little bit. I got some pretty crazy rodent trace. And most people can say, "Oh, that rat poop's been up there for years. I ain't worried about it." Well, I'm going to make you sign something if I'm going to put more insulation on top of that. But I really recommend you get a pest control guy out here just to make sure that there's no pathways. Because I tasted one of those and it seemed fresh. Just kidding. I would never do that. This is one that I found out there in the world. Like, handyman. Yeah, handyman, can you come and put a bathroom fan in because my bathroom mirror is getting foggy and my neighbor has a bathroom fan. Seems to work pretty good. Yeah, I can do that. It's going to be $200 plus the fan. And then they come and they do this. They tap into the wiring, why all these different wire nuts and stuff. Don't worry about like a junction box. And then just say, well, I just threw the little fan connector out with the box when I threw it out and didn't realize I had to cut a hole in the roof for the air to exhaust out. So I'm just gonna let it blow into the attic. So you got to take care of that during this process. So if you miss that, it's going to be something that you're going to have a difficult conversation about when it's time, because if one of your guys covers that up, that could be a huge liability issue. Okay. All right. So time to pull it all together. Perfect time to pull it all together. All right, so let's close it, baby. So the way I always did it is like you got to prepare for the presentation a little bit. I would come out of the attic. I'm gonna take my furniture blanket and fold it up that's got all the insulation on. Make sure I used my rubber gloves when I went up and down out of the attic hatch so the customer could see that I cared about their stuff. Pointed out all those fingerprints that are still on there and took a picture of it. I'm coming down. I'm going to say, I'm going to go take my ladder and my blanket out to the truck and grab a couple things and dust off. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Is that okay, Mr. Jones? Yeah, no problem, right? Okay. Go back to the truck, take a few minutes to prepare, dust yourself off, collect your thoughts. What I always did is I took pictures on my iPhone, and at that point, I would airdrop them all over to my iPad, and then so I would go back in with my iPad. Okay. Um, I would now this is a secret weapon we can do that we couldn't do when I first started selling heat pumps back in 2013 is if you haven't tried this yet, you've determined your customer's personality type. You know, Mr. Jones is a serious C personality. So I'm going to go to Chat GPT now and I'm going to put I am selling or what should I say to a C type personality in this neighborhood that is looking to invest in a heat pump. And it's going to come out with all the talking points that you need to get back to. And it's going to tell you need to talk about energy savings, you need to talk about the efficiency rating, and talk about the comfort for the home. AI is killer now. Okay. Um, be confident because you're now armed with a lot of stuff. And then when you go back in the house, you now have already built the rapport with the customer. They're waiting for you to come back in to get to the next part of this, right? You know their personality type. We've hit up Chat GPT to find out my talking points. We know what the customer's goals and drivers are because we talked to him about all the end. Now I got all the pictures to show him of all those issues that he was having. I'm ready to go back in and have a chat with this customer and figure him out. So I got everything going. I'm going to go back in the house and we're going to have a conversation. At this point, we're going to sit down with the customer and say, Mr. Jones, we were talking about a couple of issues. One of them upstairs was your wife's office. I wanted to show you what I came up with on your wife's office. Look, the bedroom right next to her office, which is similar size, but only has one outside wall. Her office has three outside walls and it has the exact same duct size. I think it's a duct sizing problem, and we're not getting enough air in there to handle the load because Mother Nature is existing on three sides of that room versus one on the room next to it. So I think we're going to verify with our load calc exactly how much air needs to go into that room, and we'll get that dialed in. Does that sound good? Perfect. But in order to do that, the duct system goes all the way back to the trunk. There's a two runs come here, it goes into a bigger duct, and it branches off to two more. It means all the way back, I'm going to need to replace that duct because I can't get enough air in the big duct to get you enough air into that room because it was all designed wrong. So I'm going to recommend today that we move forward with a new duct system. Are you okay with that? We talked a little bit about it before, right? And I'm going to have all these pictures built in. So I'm armed with their pictures, and I had 2 picture files in my iPad. And I have one of completed projects and one of other projects that looked bad. And I would go in there and I would kind of say, hey, let me go in here and show you what this thing is going to look like when it's installed. This is the product we're going to use. If I'm talking to them about needing a new attic hatch, I've got pictures of what the new attic hatches look like installed and what they look like not installed, right? Just to show them, like, so they're not trying to put things together in their head. I'm going to give them visualization. So you should build a customizable, I don't like the word pitch deck, but a presentation that has a whole bunch of, you could do it with PowerPoint, just like we're doing, and have it all together. And then just skip through the PowerPoint just to the things that are important to them, but have everything you need in that PowerPoint. Like have all the different types of equipment and everything in there. Transfer the assessment photos from the iPad phone, from the tablet. Remember emotion versus logic here. So we're going to get back into a little bit of what we looked at last week: awareness and interest, emotion, logic, and commitment. That's what we're trying to do. People buy on emotion and they justify with logic. So customize the messaging and the cadence to the customer's personality type. Show how your company will take care of them and do it differently than others. Keep driving that point home that I designed the right system for you. It's really important. Proper design and quality is the most important part of you getting a heat pump. It could mean the difference of $100 a month bill or a $500 a month bill. Systems can cost vastly more over the time you own them if you don't invest in the right one now. Load calc, envelope, addressing the ductwork, registers, and commissioning. And if you're not doing this with your heat, you need to we need to design heat pumps that are going to work good. Okay, validate your expertise with technical aptitude all the way from the walkthrough, and be comprehensive for a whole home solution. We want to make sure that we're thinking about that. We know you just want to do the heat pump now and potentially the heat pump water heater later. I think it would be a good idea for us, since we're going to be here and we have one permit going for the electrical, to go ahead and pre-wire for that water heater, because water heaters don't die on your schedule, they die on their schedule. And if you've got that outlet there, you can get a heat pump water heater put in right away and you won't have to wait a couple weeks for a permit. Okay. Use the right language is important. All these new concepts, being overly technical or too complex will be counterproductive, but you have to show customers for impact, right? So here's some tips around that. Simple terms, use the refrigerator analogy. You already got a heat pump in your house, man. It's that refrigerator in there. Takes the heat out of yesterday's leftovers and puts it on the kitchen floor. That's the same thing the heat pump's going to do. Benefits oriented language. This is how it's going to help you. Spin those perceived negatives into positives. Like, inverter heat pumps are going to run for a really long time, but they use a tiny bit of energy doing it, and they're going to clean the air the whole time. Like, I'm going to give you amazingly clean air in your home because I'm passing the air across that filter more times per hour. Visual aids, show pictures. Use a bunch of pictures from completed jobs that you've done and use those to drive the impact. So in our sales process, I have a picture of just about every application of system we install. So I can bring it right to, this is what the system's going to look like when we put it on a base in your basement. This is what it's going to look like horizontal in your attic. This is what its limb duct's going to look like. Safety and health focus. Mr. Jones, congratulations. You're going to do this. You're going to get rid of one more gas appliance and one more set of flames from your house. I feel really proud that you're doing this today with us. Hey, remember, your customer has a starting point. They've always had a gas furnace. They've always had a gas water heater. They've never lived with a heat pump. We need to be really clear about what that's going to do for them. Explaining the different options. We need to have pictures to drive this home. If you're going to go in and recommend a multi-zone wall mount for the upstairs, you better have some pictures of a multi-zone wall mount and the various pieces that you can do, and say, look, are you going to be okay with this on your wall? Maybe you want to put in a quilt system that's really pretty. And then you got to ask them. So, Mr. Jones, we've gone over a lot today. In fact, I feel like I've given you a fire hose of information. Is there anything else you'd like me to clarify about the design or scope or pricing of this project? On a scale of 1 to 10, Mr. Jones, how confident you feel about moving forward with this plan with our company? I don't know. I'm about a 9. What would make it a 10 for you, Mr. Jones? Go ahead and ask those questions. They're either going to buy or they're not going to buy, right? If I was able to address these for you, would you be comfortable moving ahead? Get it out there. This is one of those objections we need to get out there, right? When is a good time for us to meet again, or do you feel comfortable getting started now? So at least I'm going to book that recall, and I'm going to go back out there, or I'm going to meet them on another, 30-minute questions call, or I'm going to ask for the sale. A lot of salespeople do a dynamite presentation. They impress the heck out of people, and they don't ask for the sale or get the people started on what it's going to be like to do business with you, right? And then it all comes down to, I got all the 5 bids, Margaret, let's sit down and look at these. Okay, which one do we like? I like that one because it's $14,000. Okay, well, I think it'll work. And they completely blow you off because you got a higher price because they forgot all about it. So, okay. Provide well-tailored education on heat pumps to the customer. Show images of past installs. Nothing noting the system approach you'll be proposing and how it's going to work, how it's going to change their life. Like, you're not going to be able to hear this run. Like, it's really important. Like, Mr. Jones, once I get all the furniture the same temperature as the air as the house, this system's going to use 1/5 of the amount of energy to keep the house warm. And I remember you mentioned that your wife is never warm. So she's going to love you for this, Mr. Jones. You're going to make some big husband points today. Discuss how your company's approach is the best solution. Address objections. Ask permission always to tell them about extra services. Don't just go putting a bunch of bolt-on stuff in there without explaining it to them and why they need it. And send a customized proposal and email summary to back up. If you're doing one in the house, you need to send another one out with a nice summary email. I wanted to get this in front of you again. This is all the things we talked about. I wanted you to know we considered all of these things in this proposal, and we're going to take care of those problems that you said you had in the house. And you can feel 100% confident that we're going to take care of all this. You have my word. Okay. And then Mr. Jones can't wait. Look at you, finally got a smile out of this guy. So setting expectations. This is what we call this real quick. Responsibly avoiding responsibility. So we need to make sure that they've decided if they want an economical solution or the comfort solution. Because with the economical solution, I'm not guaranteeing comfort. I'm not telling you the whole house is going to be within 2 degrees of every room. The timelines. You get the guy going and he says, great, when we can do it. And then you go, oh man, I don't have any spots till like here. I can't do it till January. Oh man, the furnace ain't working, right? So discuss the workday plan. How much noise is there going to be? How much dust is there going to be? Is there going to be electrical disruptions? And when I put that new span panel in, am I going to bring a portable battery out for them to plug their computers and their lights and their TV and their refrigerator into while I'm working on their house? I want to do that stuff, right? I'm going to let them know that that's the service I'm going to do. That they're going to have multiple visits after the job is done, and there's going to be a company calling them to come out and test everything. And once you get the documents back from them, then we're going to get the city permit people out. The warranty information, like this system has 10 years, the system has 12 years. We offer 10 years of workmanship protection. Rebate paperwork. Mr. Jones, some of the rebates we're taking care of, our company is taking care of for you, but this big one, you're going to have to take care of yourself. We'll give you everything you need, but I would recommend you get started with them right away. And so just remember, sometimes the customer isn't one person. It can be anybody, right? This is something we had great luck with. Customers calling up and saying, "Oh, my heat pump, I turned it on outside, it's leaking water." We have our owner's manual. It has QR codes in it that go to videos that explain all these things. And my guy, they call the office, say, "Hey, you got that owner's manual that it came with? Look in there for that problem. Scan that QR code." And it's either me or someone else at the company explaining why that's perfectly normal. Okay. So, part two takeaways: ask better questions, dive in, get more detail, and build off that detail. Be the guide and not the pitch. We're not trying to be the slick dude that's coming in and selling a system, right? Perform a comprehensive assessment, tailor the presentation delivery to that customer's expectations, and then set expectations with the customer so they can't call back and say, "You never told me it was going to run this long," right? So just set those expectations. I believe we have a couple more minutes left for any questions. So thank you all for joining us today. I know that was long. I tried to talk fast so we could get through the whole thing. Any questions out there, Alex?
Um, yeah, sure. Let's see which what anyone who has outstanding questions, get those coming in. For now, I'll just pick one that's been responded to. George had a question. What four photos are the most helpful for you in an email referral suggesting you connect with a homeowner? So I mentioned the ones we usually ask for are wide shots of the furnace and the water heater, photo of the panels showing all the breakers. And then if there's no existing AC, it's always helpful to see if they have a place in mind for the outdoor unit and a floor plan if they haven't happen to have one. We get some folks who dust their original floor plan from the architect off from the archives. Those are always super helpful when you're doing things remotely, or even in person to give you a head start on doing the site diagram for load calculation. So, Larry, anything in addition to that checklist?
Yeah, something that I've had an issue with a couple of times was, you're out there measuring the house. The guy goes, "Hey, I have a set of plans. Let me go get them for you." And he comes and he rolls the things out, and you go, "Great. I'll take a picture of some of these plans, and that'll be great." Those plans don't have the window measurements in them.
Hmm.
So what you need to do is say, can you send me this plan in email? I'm going to go ahead and go through and write down all the window measurements in all the rooms, and then I'll put them in this plan later. But it's way easier to do a load calc off of a 2x2 graph paper than it is off of somebody's plans where you got to scroll around on the screen and do all that. It's way easier. So just do your own plan if you can. Oh, that rhymed. Okay. Hey, we're right at 5:30. We don't have anything else. Thank everybody for being on here, man. This was cool.
Yeah,
That was
let's do our
psychology.
closeout slides. Larry, let's pass
Okay,
it back
let's bang
over
it.
to.
Thank you
There we
so
go.
much, Larry. That was super entertaining to watch you teach. Um, so before we leave, just quick announcements. If you have time, I'm launching a poll. Let us know how we did today, what type of trainings you want to continue seeing. And then just very quickly, we have two in-person events coming, our renewable energy and energy storage and resiliency happy hour in Santa Barbara, and then our regional forum coming up November 4th in person in Santa Barbara as well, buildings for wildfire resiliency. So really great things coming up, and we hope to see you there. Thank you
Nice.
all.
And here is the obligatory family picture that is very comfortable and so happy because they have CC Rin as their CC. Thank you
All
guys.
right, thank you so much.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.